When my family left my sister's husband stranded in the middle of the desert as a prank, I laughed along with them. When he came back 3 days later with that cold, dead look in his eyes, I knew we'd made a terrible mistake. By the time he finished destroying my family one by one, I realized I'd been watching them torture a good man for over a year, and I'd done nothing to stop it. I'm Thora, I'm 29 years old, and this is the story of how my family's cruelty came back to haunt us in ways we never imagined. Before we continue, please subscribe to the channel and let me know where you're listening from in the comments. I need to start by telling you who I am, because that matters. I'm the oldest of 4 kids, the sensible one, the responsible one. I'm a physical therapist, I pay my bills on time, I return my shopping carts. I've always been the person people come to when they need advice, when they need someone level-headed. But none of that matters now, because when it really counted, I failed. I failed someone who needed me to be brave, and I'll carry that guilt for the rest of my life. My family has always been close. Too close, maybe. After my dad left when I was 12, it became us against the world. My mom Karen raised us alone, and she did her best, but somewhere along the way, that closeness turned toxic. We became this tight unit that looked down on everyone else. If you weren't born into our family, you were an outsider. And we treated outsiders accordingly. There's my younger sister Bellamy. She's 25 now, and she's always been the baby, the princess. Beautiful, charming, and completely spoiled. Mom gave her everything, and Bellamy learned early that she could get away with anything if she batted her eyelashes and turned on the tears. Then there are our cousins, Jade and Marcus. They're 27 and 26. Their parents died in a car accident when they were teenagers and Mom took them in. They're not cousins to us, they're siblings. We all grew up in the same house, shared the same rooms, fought over the same bathroom. But here's the thing about our family that I'm ashamed to admit now. We were mean. Not obviously, not in a way that made us seem like bad people to outsiders. We were the kind of mean that hides behind jokes and laughter. We'd tear people apart and call it teasing. We'd mock someone's clothes, their job, their family, and then say we were just kidding when they looked hurt. And if someone couldn't take a joke, well, that was their problem, not ours. That's the family Quinn married into 18 months ago. I remember the first time Bellamy brought him home. It was a Sunday dinner, and she'd been dating him for about 3 months. She walked in with this quiet, kind-looking man who had gentle eyes and a nervous smile. Quinn was 31, a self-made tech consultant who'd built his own business from nothing. He came from a small town, worked his way through college, and created something successful through sheer determination and intelligence. I liked him immediately. There was something genuine about him, something solid. When he shook my hand, he looked me in the eye and asked me real questions about my work. He listened when I answered. He brought flowers for my mom and a bottle of wine he'd researched because Bellamy mentioned she liked Pinot Noir. But I watched my family pick him apart before dessert was even served. Mom looked at his watch, some practical thing that wasn't a Rolex, and I saw her lip curl slightly. Jade Googled him right there at the table and whispered to Marcus that his family was from some nowhere town. Marcus decided within 20 minutes that Quinn was boring because he didn't laugh at Marcus's crude jokes. And Bellamy sat there soaking it all in, watching our family dissect her boyfriend like he was a science project. I told myself it was normal. Every family makes fun of the new boyfriend, right? Every family has an adjustment period. Quinn seemed fine with it anyway. He'd laugh along when Marcus called him the professor in that mocking tone. He'd smile when Mom made passive-aggressive comments about his clothes being practical. I convinced myself that if Quinn wasn't bothered, I shouldn't be either. But I was bothered. I just wasn't brave enough to say anything. The engagement happened fast. 8 months after that first dinner, Quinn proposed. He took Bellamy to her favorite spot overlooking the ocean and got down on one knee with a ring he'd clearly spent months planning. It was perfect for her, exactly her style, exactly what she would have chosen. When she called to tell us, she was crying happy tears, gushing about how romantic it was, how lucky she was. The family's reaction made me feel sick. Well, he's punching above his weight, but good for him, Jade said. At least he has money, Marcus added. She could do worse. Mom just sighed and said, I suppose if Bellamy's happy, that's what matters. Even if he is a bit plain. I watched Bellamy's face change when they said these things. The happy tears dried up, and something else moved into her eyes. Something calculating. She started laughing along with them, making her own jokes about her boring but reliable fiancé. And I told myself she was just playing along, that she really did love him. Why else would she marry him? The wedding planning was a nightmare. Every choice Quinn made was criticized. His groomsmen were nobodies from his nobody hometown. His family was unsophisticated and embarrassing. At the rehearsal dinner, my mother actually said, loud enough for half the room to hear, "Well, at least Bellamy will live comfortably even if the conversation at home is dull." I'll never forget Quinn's mother's face when Jade called Quinn Bellamy's ATM with legs. This sweet, working-class woman who'd raised a good son, who'd worked 2 jobs to put him through college, just stood there with tears in her eyes. She didn't say anything. She just quietly excused herself and went to the bathroom. I almost said something then. The words were right there in my throat, but Bellamy grabbed my arm and pulled me aside. "Don't be a buzzkill, Thor," she said. That was her nickname for me. "Quinn knows we're just joking. He's fine. Besides, he's lucky to be part of this family." I swallowed my words and told myself she was right. I told myself Quinn was fine, that he had thick skin, that every family was like this. I made excuses because making excuses was easier than standing up to my family. The wedding happened, and they moved into a beautiful house that Quinn bought. And that's when things got worse. 6 months into their marriage, the family group chat, the one Quinn wasn't included in, became a constant stream of mockery. Bellamy would share private details about him. "He cried during a movie last night. So embarrassing. He wanted to stay home on Friday night. What kind of man doesn't want to go out? He bought me the wrong flowers." I had to explain what peonies are. Again, at family dinners, we'd all talk over him. When he tried to contribute to a conversation, someone would interrupt or change the subject. When he'd tell a story, people would check their phones. Marcus started openly borrowing money from Quinn's business accounts. Quinn had added Bellamy as an authorized user for household expenses, and Marcus had access to those accounts somehow. The family knew. We all knew. Nobody said anything. I'd see these flashes of hurt cross Quinn's face. He'd say something and everyone would ignore him, and for just a second, his whole body would tense. Then Bellamy would laugh and he'd force a smile and the moment would pass. Every time it happened, I'd feel this twist in my stomach. But then I'd tell myself I was overreacting, that Quinn would speak up if he was really unhappy, that it wasn't my place to interfere in my sister's marriage. I made excuses because I was a coward. Then Mom announced the annual family desert camping trip. We'd been doing it for years, this tradition of driving out to this beautiful, remote spot and spending a long weekend under the stars. It was our thing, our family bonding time. Jade joked, "Should we even invite Quinn? He'll probably complain about the heat." Bellamy got this look on her face, this smile that made my skin crawl. "Oh, he's coming," she said. "I've got plans for him." Something about the way she said it made my stomach drop. Something about that smile, that tone. I should have asked what she meant. I should have demanded to know what she was planning. I should have called Quinn and warned him. But I didn't. And that decision, that moment of cowardice, led to everything that came next. The desert air was already scorching by 9 in the morning when we arrived at the campsite. Quinn was the first one out of his truck, already moving to help unload the gear before anyone else had even stretched their legs. I watched him haul the heavy coolers to the shade, set up the canopy without being asked, and offer to start organizing the tents. He was trying so hard. He was always trying so hard. "Quinn, sweetie, maybe let Marcus handle the fire," Mom said, waving her hand dismissively. "You're more of an indoor person." Quinn just nodded. "Sure, Karen." His voice was flat, empty of emotion. He walked away and sat on a rock at the edge of camp, staring out at the endless desert. I noticed then how thin he'd gotten, how tired he looked. Not physically tired, but soul tired. Like something inside him had been slowly dying, and we'd all been too busy laughing to notice. That night around the campfire, Bellamy announced the prank. She was 3 beers in, her cheeks flushed, her eyes bright with malice disguised as mischief. "Okay, so I've been planning something hilarious," she said, leaning forward. Quinn had already gone to bed. "Tomorrow morning, we tell Quinn we're going to explore this amazing rock formation I read about. We drive him out there, like 30 minutes into the middle of nowhere. Then while he's taking photos, we just leave him." Jade's eyes lit up. "Oh my God, yes. He'll panic," Bellamy continued, giggling. "He'll realize he needs us, that he can't survive without us. Maybe he'll finally show some gratitude instead of moping around all the time." Marcus was already laughing. "Dude's gonna lose his mind." Mom shrugged, sipping her wine. "Might toughen him up. Build some character." They all looked at me. I felt my throat close up. I should have said no. I should have told them this was cruel, that this had gone too far, that we'd been tormenting this man for over a year and enough was enough. But I looked at their faces, all of them unified in their excitement, and I was terrified of being the outsider, terrified of them turning on me the way they'd turned on Quinn, so I laughed weakly and said nothing. Again. The next morning Bellamy practically skipped to Quinn's tent. "Baby, get up. I want to show you this incredible spot I found on the map. Perfect sunrise photos." Quinn emerged, rubbing his eyes. For just a second, he looked hopeful, like maybe Bellamy was finally being kind to him. "Yeah, okay, let me grab my camera." We piled into the Jeep. Bellamy drove, Jade in the passenger seat, Marcus, Quinn, and me in the back. We drove and drove, leaving the main trails behind, heading deeper into the desert where the landscape turned harsh and empty. Nothing but sand and rock and heat for miles in every direction. "This is beautiful," Quinn said quietly, looking out the window. "Really beautiful." Bellamy's smile in the rearview mirror made me want to vomit. We stopped at the edge of a massive dried riverbed. Bellamy pointed to a cliff formation in the distance. "Go check that out, babe. The lighting is perfect right now. Get some good shots." Quinn grabbed his camera and started walking. He turned back once and waved at us. We waved back. The second he was far enough away, Bellamy slammed the Jeep into drive and floored it. The car erupted in laughter. Bellamy was cackling, actually cackling, pulling out her phone to record herself. This is what he gets for being so boring. Oh my God, I can't wait to see his face. He's probably already crying, Jade screamed over the wind. Marcus was hitting the back of the seat, howling. "Dude's gonna piss himself." I sat there in the back, staring out the rear window at the cloud of dust behind us, and felt bile rise in my throat. I couldn't speak, couldn't move. I just watched the desert swallow the spot where we'd left him. "We'll go back in an hour," Bellamy said, wiping tears of laughter from her eyes. "He'll be fine." "This is hilarious." We got back to camp, and Bellamy immediately told Mom what we'd done. Mom actually laughed. "You kids. Well, don't leave him out there too long. It's getting hot." An hour passed, then another. I finally spoke up. "Bellamy, it's been 2 hours. It's 95 degrees. We need to get him." She rolled her eyes. "Fine, fine. Let's go rescue the baby." We drove back to the spot. My heart was pounding so hard I could hear it in my ears. We pulled up to where we'd left him. Quinn was gone. "Quinn," Bellamy called out, her voice suddenly uncertain. "Quinn, come on, joke's over." Nothing, just wind and silence. We searched for an hour, calling his name until our voices were hoarse. The wind had covered any footprints. There was no sign of him anywhere. He'd just vanished into the desert. Jade's face had gone pale. "Where is he?" "Maybe he walked back to camp," Marcus suggested, but his voice shook. We drove back. He wasn't there. We called his phone, straight to voicemail. That's when the panic really set in. Bellamy started crying, real tears this time. What if something happened? What if he's hurt? Oh God, what if he collapsed somewhere? I exploded. Everything I'd been holding in for 18 months came pouring out. "This is your fault, Bellamy. This is all of our faults. We've been cruel to him from day one, and you just kept making it worse. We abandoned him in the desert as a joke." She looked at me like I'd slapped her. "I didn't mean for this to happen. I love him. Do you?" I screamed. "Do you really? Because I've watched you humiliate him for over a year." We called park rangers. They came with search teams and dogs. They searched for 2 days while we waited at camp, barely sleeping, sick with guilt and fear. The rangers found nothing. No trace of Quinn anywhere. Bellamy was inconsolable. She sobbed into my shoulder. "I didn't mean it. I swear I didn't mean for this to happen. I do love him, Thor. I really do." I wanted to believe her. God, I wanted to believe her so badly. On the 3rd day, right as the sun was setting and turning the desert orange and red, Quinn walked into camp. We all rushed toward him, but I stopped short when I saw his face. He was sunburned and covered in dust, his clothes torn, but that's not what made me freeze. It was his eyes. They were completely empty. Cold. Dead. "Oh my God, Quinn." Bellamy threw herself at him, sobbing. "I'm so sorry. We're so sorry. It was just a prank. We came back for you but you were gone," and we looked everywhere. He didn't hug her back. His arms stayed at his sides. He walked past all of us like we were ghosts and went straight to his tent. We watched him methodically pack his belongings. Every movement was calm, controlled, precise. Quinn, Bellamy's voice was small. Baby, please, talk to me. It was just a joke. We were coming back for you, please. He zipped his bag and finally looked at her. Really looked at her. I know, he said. His voice was completely flat. No anger. No hurt. Nothing. He carried his things to his truck. I couldn't take it anymore. I walked up to him. Quinn, please. Let's talk about this. Let us explain. He turned to me, and I saw something in his eyes that made my blood run cold. Recognition. Understanding. Judgment. You knew, he said quietly. You all knew. He got in his truck and drove away, leaving us standing there in the dust and dying light. Bellamy collapsed, screaming his name. Mom was cursing. Jade and Marcus looked terrified, but all I could think about was what he'd said. You knew. You all knew. I didn't understand what he meant. Not yet. But I would soon. Very, very soon. A week passed and Quinn had vanished from our lives completely. Bellamy called him over 200 times. Every call went to voicemail. She drove to their house to find the locks changed and her belongings in boxes on the porch. He'd moved out without a word, leaving no forwarding address. He's being so dramatic, Mom said, waving her hand dismissively. He'll cool off in a few days. Men always do. But I knew better. Something about the way Quinn had looked at me in that desert camp, the emptiness in his voice when he said you knew, it haunted me. I couldn't sleep. I kept seeing his face, kept hearing those two words over and over. I drove back to the desert alone 3 days later. I had a key to our family's equipment shed where we stored camping gear between trips. I don't know what I was looking for exactly. Maybe proof that Quinn had been okay out there. Maybe evidence of where he'd gone. Maybe just penance. That's when I found the trail cameras. We'd set them up weeks before the trip, supposedly to catch wildlife footage. But I remembered Jade saying, if Quinn does anything pathetic, we'll have proof. I'd forgotten about them completely. My hands shook as I retrieved the SD cards and drove home. I sat in my car in my driveway for 20 minutes before I found the courage to plug the first one into my laptop. What I saw destroyed me. The first camera showed us setting up the equipment. Jade's voice, clear as day: if Quinn does anything embarrassing this weekend, we'll have it all on camera. The second camera captured the night before the prank. We were all gathered around the fire after Quinn went to bed. I watched myself sit there, silent, as my family tore him apart. I can't wait to see him beg, Bellamy said, her face illuminated by firelight. He's so pathetic. Marcus leaned in. You gonna divorce him soon? Dude's loaded. Bellamy laughed, and the sound made me want to rip my ears off. Not yet. I'm gonna get pregnant first. Then I'll leave him and get child support. Plus I'll take half his business. He's too stupid to have gotten a prenup. You're evil, Jade said, grinning. I love it. Mom raised her wine glass. Just be smart about it, honey. Make sure you have everything lined up first. I ran to my bathroom and vomited until there was nothing left. But I forced myself to keep watching. The third camera showed Marcus bragging about embezzling from Quinn's business accounts. He hasn't noticed yet. Guy's too trusting. I've taken about 50,000 so far. The family laughed like it was the funniest thing they'd ever heard. Then the footage jumped to 2 days after we'd abandoned Quinn. He appeared on camera, looking exhausted but very much alive. He found one of the cameras, pulled it down, and I watched him connect it to his phone. His face as he watched the footage, I'll never forget it as long as I live. It shattered. Completely shattered. He stood there in the desert, alone, watching the people he'd tried so hard to love reveal exactly what they thought of him. Then something changed. His face hardened like cooling metal. He pulled out a notebook and started making phone calls. Lots of phone calls. He spent 3 days out there, and he wasn't lost at all. He was planning. 2 weeks later, Quinn sent a message to the family group chat. Just one line: family meeting at Karen's house. Saturday, 2 p.m. Everyone needs to be there. Bellamy's face lit up. He's forgiven us. I knew he would. I said nothing. I knew better now. Saturday came. We all gathered in Mom's living room, everyone talking excitedly about Quinn coming back. Then he walked in with 2 lawyers and a police officer. The room went silent. Quinn set up his laptop without saying a word. Then he played the trail camera footage. All of it. I watched my family's faces drain of color as their own voices filled the room. Bellamy's admission about the pregnancy plan. Marcus's confession about the embezzlement. Mom's encouragement of Bellamy's scheme. All of it, recorded in perfect clarity. When the footage ended, Quinn finally spoke. His voice was steady, calm, terrifyingly controlled. I spent 3 days in the desert thinking about this moment. Here's what's happening. He nodded to one of the lawyers, who stepped forward with a stack of documents. Bellamy, these are divorce papers. You get nothing. Your admission of fraudulent intent is on tape, which means the prenup I actually did have that you never bothered to read is ironclad. Bellamy's mouth opened, but no sound came out. Marcus, you're being arrested for embezzlement. I have evidence of every fraudulent transaction you made. The police officer moved forward, pulling out handcuffs. Marcus tried to run, but there was nowhere to go. Mom, Jade, Bellamy, you're being sued in civil court for conspiracy to commit fraud. My lawyers are very good. Quinn pulled out his phone. I also sent this footage to Bellamy's employer, to your entire social circle, and to every family member on both sides. Everyone knows now. Everyone knows what you are. Bellamy started screaming, ugly sounds of rage and desperation. You can do this. I'm your wife. Not for long, Quinn said. Mom stood up, her face purple with fury. We'll fight this. Will Quinn's lawyer cut her off? Try it. You're on tape. All of you. Marcus was crying as the officer led him away in handcuffs. Jade bolted from the room, sobbing. Mom collapsed onto the couch, all her bravado gone. Quinn packed up his laptop. As he turned to leave, I stepped in front of him. I'm sorry, I whispered. I should have stopped them. I should have protected you. I was a coward. He studied my face for a long moment. Then, slowly, he nodded. You were. But you're the only one who looked guilty. The only one whose eyes showed shame when it was happening. He pulled an envelope from his jacket and handed it to me. I heard you on the cameras. You tried to warn Bellamy a few times. You were too afraid of them to do more, but at least you tried. I opened the envelope with shaking hands. Inside was a check for $10,000 and a note for when you're ready to leave them too. You deserve better than this family. Tears blurred my vision. Quinn, goodbye, Thora, he said quietly. Then he walked out of my mother's house, and I never saw him again. The aftermath was brutal. Marcus served 18 months in prison for embezzlement. Bellamy lost her job when the footage went viral in our social circles. She's drowning in legal fees, her reputation destroyed, working retail to pay rent. Mom won't speak to me because she blames me for not warning them that Quinn would retaliate. She actually said that. Like I was supposed to predict that the man they'd tortured would eventually fight back. I used Quinn's money to move across the country. I started over in a new city where no one knows my family's name. I changed my phone number. I haven't spoken to any of them in 6 months. Sometimes I think about Quinn. I hope he's happy wherever he is. I hope he found peace. He deserved so much better than what we gave him. I learned something in that desert. Cruelty doesn't disappear just because you're laughing while you inflict it. And sometimes, the quietest person in the room is the one you should fear most. Quinn didn't get mad. He got even. And we deserved every single second of it. I just wish I'd been brave enough to stop it before it reached that point. But I wasn't. And that's something I'll have to live with for the rest of my life. The question I ask myself now, the one that keeps me awake at night, is this: how many times did Quinn give us chances to stop? How many times did he hope we'd see him as human and choose kindness? How many times did we fail him before he finally gave up? I'll never know. But I know it was too many. If you've made it this far, thank you for listening to my story. If you've ever been the Quinn in your own life, I'm so sorry. You deserved better. And if you've ever been the person standing by, watching cruelty happen and saying nothing, please be braver than I was. Speak up before it's too late. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and comment below where you're listening from. Your support means everything to this channel.